Game 1, what was it?
Extra rest. Houston had been in the Bay 2 extra days while Golden State had to play down in Los Angeles.
Agreed. Advantage Houston. Game 2.
Still extra rest for Houston, and the fact that...
Well, not extra rest because they had the same rest, but specifically, Golden State made a decision in Game 1.
Load up the minutes on all their superstars, so all these
The small
guys,
lineup, especially of depth, that's very effective.
right, and the health of their guards, both Curry and Clay had ankle injuries, and remember, so they played lots of minutes, and they had to come back then in Game 2.
Every starter with Iguodala on that list played between, I think, 6 and 10 additional minutes in Game 1 relative to the season's average.
Advantage Houston.
Because you only have 48 hours to turn it around in the playoffs. That's as small of rest or as little rest as you can get. If you overplay your guys, you're kind of expecting Game 2 to suffer. Okay. Game 3, there was a bunch of rest, which advantaged Golden State, but there was a bigger factor.
Yeah, the bigger factor, of course, was the 0-2 team coming home, the Houston Rockets.
Must win.
All in, crowd energy. Conspiracy theorists like myself would argue that, if anything, that would certainly benefit Houston in terms of the way the game was called. It certainly couldn't hurt Houston.
Okay, but we're mixing points up. In general, Game 3's major, because this is just, I know you hate 7 words, Fez, but the one would be must win, all in Houston.
Correct.
Okay. Now, that's 3 in a row, right?
Yep.
Game 4, what was the biggest factor?
I got it wrong. I thought the biggest factor was the fact that Golden State was off a loss, and they've been so good off of a loss in their playoff history under Kerr.
Okay. So you thought that. What do you think now?
I think that the having to play with only 1 day off and then having to play that next day was a very significant factor, and I think it showed all these starters for Golden State playing all these minutes, RJ. It really looks like it's impacting them. The Klay Thompsons in the world, they look a little bit fatigued out there.
And remember, Game 3 went to overtime, so the starters had to play an extra 5-6 minutes.
That is the key. Thank you, Brad. Brad's like Silent Bob. When he talks, listen up. All right, so to me, the following point is, yes, the series is Golden State plus a point. That sounds even. But I really believe, and you could say, Game 3's factor is huge. That must win is as big. I mean, how many points is, like, if you have a team, we saw it yesterday. Game 3, the line was what? Houston at home.
Houston minus 3.5. And then look at Game 4, RJ. Houston pick 'em. So that Game 3.
And the only thing that changed was Houston won a game,
Yes.
which means that's supposed to affirm Houston's competitive, but they're saying, no. They shot, they spent their energy, and there's going to be a natural letdown.
Yes.
Okay. To me, we can say, maybe that Game 2 wasn't, but you add it up. I mean, Houston's had all the situational advantages, and it's really hard to imagine. It's really hard to imagine that if the series is this close and Houston has all these advantages, that it's just not a sign that Golden State is just as good as we thought entering the series.
Well, I'd be inclined to say all those situational advantages, how much are they worth each and every game on average? Maybe 1.5 on average?
See, I'm just not sure how I'm not sure how you do that. And nothing. See, this is what's dangerous. You can always say, well, there's a half point here, a point there, but they won by 10. I just think in general, if 2 guys are running 4 races and one guy's got a couple extra pounds in his shoes, I don't know how to quantify how many tenths of a second that's worth. But if they tie the race, I'm thinking the other guy's fast.
Exactly. There's no question that Golden State is better, even though these teams have played evenly in the first 4 games. If these are the only 4 games you've watched, because as you mentioned, you could come over the top and say, look, Golden State's been in bad spots throughout this series. A lot of it being that having been pushed to 6 games against the Clippers, and that has set them back in these 4 games.
That's Steve Fezzik. I'm RJ Bell, straight out of Vegas.